Today's topic is understanding trauma and creating safety. We're going to be talking about in this very short video the differences between a survival brain and a learning brain and how you can create safety within your classroom with some consistency. So, a little bit about the learning brain, and we're just going to use this language of the learning brain as a brain that is ready and focused. They want to learn new information. They're ready to take in that new information. They're a brain that's okay with ambiguity within a situation. They can look from the balcony and see the big picture of where maybe the learning is going or the purpose. Emotionally, somebody in their learning brain is calm, they're curious, and they're really excited about learning. And somebody within their learning brain, they're not afraid to make mistakes. They are okay with making mistakes and they recognize that making mistakes is part of that learning process. Now, on the other hand, people who are in their survival brain are very hyper focused on threat. They have a black and white thinking. They don't like ambiguity in situations that increases their stress level. They like to just focus on the facts. They may feel emotionally very panicky, very fear driven, nervous, shut down. And when students are in their survival brain or they are afraid to make mistakes, they don't have the confidence and they just think that they're stupid and doubt themselves. Now, the longer that someone is in their survival brain, the more that it stays on. And people that are in trauma or have had trauma in their background, they misperceive this ambiguity in situations as being stressful. And it just really creates an easier slide into the survival brain. So someone may be calm, collected, and then feel that frustration. And they may feel frustration at even a more intense level than someone else who hasn't had trauma in their background and just easily slides into that learning brain. The more control we have on our stress, the easier it is to be in our learning brain. So we're going to make two assumptions here. One assumption is that all of our students have experienced trauma over the past 2 years. All of our students at some point have been in their survival brain mode, and maybe some of them for a very long period of time. And we're also going to assume that people learn best when they feel safe and supported by others around them. So, with these two assumptions working, how can we help children, students, people that we work with to be in access of their learning brain? Well, there's some simple ways to do that, some practical ways to do that. And the first one is to practice your own calming down strategies. Now, we have talked about this before about calming down strategies. And many times we talk about things we can do outside of the school day. But what are those things that you can do within your school day? What are those things that just take a minute or two that you can help yourself to feel grounded and centered? We've done a lot around breathing and mindfulness activities, but there's many ways. Maybe you put on some calm music as kids come into the classroom. Or maybe up on the smart board, you have a really calming picture. Or maybe you just sit down at your desk, and as people come in, you're taking some deep breaths before you start. So there's lots of different ways. And the reason that this is a practice is because it needs to be done over and over again. So, practicing these strategies and reminding yourself in different ways to carry through a strategy. I used to have a chime that rang on my smartphone, and it would ring every hour, and I would just stop and take a deep breath. You can find other ways. Then also, there's a researcher. Her name's Dr. Lori DeSaltis. She has an awesome website called Revelations in Education, and she has lots of free activities there. She calls them focus attention practices, or we've called them mindfulness activities. Either way, the routine of integrating these practices with students and adults can help bring a calm to a dysregulated nervous system. So again, practicing these activities, and Dr. Lori DeSaltis on her website has some things that you can download that work for elementary and high school students, because we know that all nervous systems get dysregulated. And then practicing that throughout the day, creating this environment where learning can take place really comes down to those consistent skills that you work on for yourself and for your students. So the resources that I mentioned or that you have are where you can really work on calming down that survival brain and bringing it in to the learning brain. Because we know that when we practice these things, and a great time to practice them are maybe at transition times throughout the day, at the beginning of a class, or at the end of the class or day, maybe before you come into a big meeting or your students are having a test. These are all great times to help them to practice these skills that will calm down their nervous system and move them from a survival brain mode into a learning brain mode. And before you know it, you're going to see a positive change in yourself and also in your students. So on my website here, if you go to my website, on the front page, there's a button where you can receive 5 strategies to access a learning brain. I have a handout that goes along with that. Also, that signs you up for my newsletter list. And in my newsletter, I share a lot of the resources that I just talked about in this video. You can also go to my website and go under my resources, and you'll see that the upcoming blog for January is about this exact same topic of how you can calm your nervous system down. So pick 1 or 2, practice, and see if you can notice the change within yourself and within your students.